Well, getting into the advisory and the importance of protecting your mental wealth. Pedro Marin Ramirez from Marin Wealth joining me now. Good to see you. So how do we, protect our mental health and our mental wealth here?
Yeah, so I guess we're in a society where we're solely focusing on our physical wealth. So what your super is worth, what your I guess your home is worth, how much you have in savings. Very few pay attention to what your earning capacity it is. So that is what we call mental wealth. So your ability to make an income over a certain period of a time. So for example, someone who has very specific key, set of skills and that put them aside from the rest. So you will have a much higher mental wealth than others. So the importance of basically looking at what is my mental wealth now, very specific in younger demographics, because they haven't had the time to transfer that wealth from your mind to your actual wallet. It's probably one of the key differences in what a mental wealth and physical wealth is at the moment.
What are you seeing in terms of young people engaging with their wealth? I read quite an alarming piece actually that a lot of people are not even looking at their super balances. They're getting into crypto. I mean, potentially crypto can boom, but superannuation is most people's biggest asset. How engaged are young people with their financial wealth?
Well, you'd be surprised. With I guess after COVID, a lot of people had their mobiles and technology at hand and got engaged quite a bit into their supers. First of all, because they technically got access to it and they're kind of interested, and also because it dropped significantly. So that created a little bit of momentum around the younger generations and access to trading through your technology advancements. So you would be surprised how switched on younger generations are at the moment. For example, they're the first driver of ethical investments. So there is a bit of an appetite for financial advice in younger generations. So I would say probably at Marin Wealth, 70% of our clientele is under the age of 50. So they're very actively engaged into their future and their current investment, especially super, even though it's probably not their biggest assets at the moment. But like you correctly said, it will be, if not the first or after their home, will be the first biggest asset in retirement.
You work quite closely with the Spanish speaking communities in Australia. How do cultural differences, I guess, differ when it comes to managing wealth, particularly in retirement?
Yeah, that's it's very interesting because it's like night and day. I'll give you an example of where Anglo-American cultures are quite individualistic in regards in retirement. So they most likely the parents will live on their own, and their children will be basically on their own as well, will be living on their own home. So when you're planning for retirement, most of them will say, "Well, I'll use my super, and I will leave behind my home, so my children can have that as an asset that I will pass on into intergenerational wealth." Whereas, for example, Latin American cultures, they tend to be more groupalistic. We tend to live with our parents for longer, and even perhaps in retirement, they still are living with their parents. So that type of say property intergenerational wealth transfer might not be there. So we have to plan for it. So if they're doing, for example, an estate planning assessment and say, "Hey, my children are actually living with me, and also is my spouse. So if I were to pass, what do we do? Like, what type of assets are we going to leave behind?" So it is and that's just one aspect of hundreds of aspects where cultures are completely different, even in Australia. But it is probably one of the biggest joys of being at Marin Wealth is that we do get to deal with Spanish speakers and the intrinsic cultures that they bring across as clients.